Hey folks, just give me a second. Hey folks, welcome to the third session of Flutter Festival, and we are going to keep this session very short today. This is going to be just an overview of what Firebase and different Firebase services are. So in today's session, we are going to first take a look at what Firebase is, then how you can use Firebase with Flutter. Then the next part of the session will be an introduction to authentication using Firebase. And finally, we'll take a look at what Cloud Firestore is. So this will be an introductory session to all these services. And yeah, so let's get started with the session. Today I have Himanish with me. He's the part of Flutter team in DSC. So yeah, Himanish, you can share your screen and we can start with the session.
Yeah. Is this visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. So let's begin with Firebase and what Firebase actually is. Firebase is a backend as a service platform that provides developers with a variety of tools and services to help them develop quality apps and grow their user base and earn profit. And it is built on the Google's infrastructure. The key features provided by Firebase are authentication services, database solutions, hosting solutions, and analytics, and more. One of the most useful features provided by Firebase is the Firebase authentication. And Firebase authentication makes it very convenient for developers to implement authentication into their mobile or web apps. Why do we need authentication now? In today's world, most apps have some or the other form of user identification. This allows them to set preferences, store data, provide personalized experiences across that are consistent across the user's devices. In order to provide this, they must provide the facility to sign up new users, sign in existing users, and manage account details and keep all this data secure. Authentication enables organizations to keep their networks secure by permitting only the authenticated users to uh, process or gain access to their resources. Authentication allows to create a hierarchy among the users and provide them with elevated privileges and based on their importance in the organization. So, implementing authentication in an app is very difficult and is a time consuming process. From the user's experience, it is also very difficult to get the right information, and users tend to hesitate to give out their information that is confidential, such as their username, password, security questions, and others in order to prevent their personal data from being leaked. Now, how Firebase authentication helps is it supports authentication using password, phone numbers, and popular federated identity providers such as Google, Facebook, and Twitter, and even more. Firebase authentication integrates tightly with other Firebase services and it leverages industry standards such as OpenAuth 2.0 and OpenID Connect so it can easily be integrated with the custom backend. How does Firebase authentication work? To sign in a user into your app, you first get the authentication credentials from the user. These credentials can be the user's email address or the password or OAuth token from a federated identity provider like GitHub or Facebook. Then the credentials are passed to the Firebase authentication SDK, and the Firebase backend servers will then verify those credentials and return a response to the client. After a successful sign-in, you can then access the user's basic profile information and control users' access to data stored in the Firebase product. You can also use the provided authentication token to verify identity of your own backend services. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So
So I
this
think
was a
I'll
quick
let Farhan.
introduction to yeah, this was a quick introduction to like what Firebase is and how you can use Firebase for authentication services. Now let us take a quick dive into the Firebase, the Flutter Fireword. So I'll be sharing my screen now, and you guys will be able to see like uh, what are different services Firebase provides for Flutter. So let me know if my screen is visible. All right.
Yeah,
The
it's
first
visible.
thing that we are going to do is we are going to visit firebase.flutter.dev. So this is the official website where you'll get all the packages that are available for Flutter, uh, all the Firebase modules that are available as packages for Flutter. So as you can see, there are a lot of services provided by Firebase. There's analytics services for different kinds of like it'll track different kinds of data, whether what page the user is frequently visiting, or maybe let's say which section of your application the user is interacting less with. So these kind of analytics help with designing the UX of the application in a much better way and improving the user experience. Then there's authentication that we talked about just a few minutes before. And then there's Cloud Firestore. Cloud Firestore is basically a NoSQL database that is provided by uh, Firebase. Then there are a lot of other functions as well. There's a whole list of these. If you want to perform like cloud-based machine learning on your applications, you don't have to create an ML model from scratch. Firebase provides machine learning capabilities as well as on as a software as a service module. All right, so let's dive into like how you can get started with using Flutter on your applications. This is the official documentation of um, Flutterfire, and here you'll see all the stuff like how to set up Firebase on your applications and things like that. This is a very easy to follow documentation. This is nothing that will be very complex. So if you want, like we'll be discussing how to set up all these things in tomorrow's session. We'll be doing a hands-on session tomorrow. But if you want to try out these things on your own, then you can just open this firebase.flutter.dev, and you can go to the documentation and you can start playing around with these stuff on your own. These are very easy to use. All right, so the next thing that I want to show you guys is let's just dive into the Firebase console. So to do that, just do a quick Google of Firebase, and the first link that is going to pop up on your screen is the Firebase itself. This is the official Firebase website, and there's a bunch of stuff over here. The organizations that are using Firebase. So one of the best things about Firebase is it is very easy to use. A lot of services that Firebase provides is like you can just directly plug those services into your application and you'll be able to use them. Instead, if you try to create these services on your own, like let's say you want to implement authentication in your mobile application, if you go with a custom authentication service, then you'll have to first of all write a backend for that. The entire logic you'll have to write on your own, and then you'll have to develop a client for that as well, and then there will be some integration issues. You'll have to overcome those as well. However, using Firebase, all of the backend logic is handled by Firebase itself, and all you need to do is just integrate the module, the authentication module into your application, and you'll be able to use the authentication service without all the hassles involved in it. So yeah, let's take a look at the Firebase console now. So this is how a Firebase console looks like. The first thing that you need to do in order to use the different services is create a project. So let's see how we can do that. Uh, the first thing that you're going to do is give a name to your project. So in the last session we were developing the caffeine app. So this time around we are going to name our project caffeine. All right. Now there are a few options over here. For example, enabling Google Analytics for your Firebase projects. This is recommended by default. If you want to turn it off, it's all up to you. For now, since it's a default option, I'll just continue with this. You need to select an account, and I'm gonna select this one. In case you have a single account on your system, then it might be possible that the screen won't come up. So it takes a while creating the project, and once it is created, we'll be able to jump into the Firebase console, your projects console, and you'll be able to take a look at what all different services Firebase is providing. Alright, as you can see, the project is ready to use. Let's dive into it. So this is the project console where all the different services that are provided by Firebase will be available to you. And as you can see, there's a whole lot of services. There's authentication, like we discussed before, the database service that we also talked about earlier. Then there are storage services, hosting services, machine learning as a service. Then there are monitoring and analytics services. So you can use these services and pay for these services as you go. Like, it's not necessary that like if you're not using uh, database service, let's say, so in that case you won't be paying for the database service. You'll be paying only for the services that you're going to use. There are different plans here, the pricing plans. The first one is the Spark plan, which is the free plan available to you. You'll be getting around 5 gigabytes of storage with this plan. Then there's pay as you go plan, the Blaze plan, where you can see the full plan details over here and see the different plans included with this pricing model. So for learners and student developers, the best plan to go with is the Spark plan, which is the default plan when you're using Firebase. So yeah, this was an overview of the Firebase console. Now we can take a look at how we can integrate Firebase with our application. So for now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with like creating a mobile application first in Flutter, and let's take a look at it. So we discussed this step in the last session as well. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a Flutter application, a Flutter project. So this is going to be a new Flutter project, and this is going to be a Flutter application. All right. We're going to name it, let's say, Flutter Firebase. Okay. First of all, we have to select a folder to create the project. My bad. This is going to take a while creating the project. Okay, so as we can see, the project is created now. So the next thing is we are going to integrate Firebase into our project. So for now, I'll be taking the example of Android only. In case you want to integrate Firebase for iOS as well, iOS and web as well. First of all, for iOS, you'll be needing Xcode. So that requires a Mac device. I don't have a Mac device as of now, so I'll be just going with the Android installation. Again, we talked about this particular concept in the last session. So uh, Flutter allows you to write like applications, build applications for different platforms using a single code base. But as you can see, there are some folders over here: Android, then we have iOS folder, and then we have web folder as well. So why are these required? These are required for some platform specific settings and changes that you need to make in order to use a few services that are platform dependent. So in case of Firebase, Firebase is a platform dependent service. It will be providing different services on different platforms. Not exactly different services, but the implementation might differ on Android and iOS. So this is a platform specific thing, and you need to make the settings and changes according to a platform. So for this session, this particular thing, we'll be working with Android. So we'll be interacting mostly with this folder, Android directory. All right. So let's get started with this. We'll be adding Firebase to our application. So the first thing that we see here is Android package name. So what is this? This is actually the application ID, and this application ID is the unique ID of your application, a unique identifier of your application. So let's see how you can create this, how you can find this, and yeah, let's take a look at it. So in order to set the application ID first for your application, what you need to do is you need to go to Android. Then under Android, you go to app and then build.gradle. Here, if you scroll down, this is the particular application ID that I was talking about. So this is how you are going to name your, you're going to develop your application ID. So the first thing that you're going to do is there's going to be a com at the beginning, com dot, and this example is going to be a company name. So for this particular session, I'm going to name it JDSC VITB, and then your application name, which is Flutter Firebase. So this will be the unique identifier for our application. Let's quickly copy this, and we are going to paste it here. Then app nickname can be anything. We are going to name it Flutter Firebase tutorial. This can be anything. It's not compulsory that you name it similar to this one. Also, this is optional, so if you don't set it, it's all right. Now there's one more thing over here. This is debug signing certificate SHA-1. So what is this? This is actually going to be a SHA key that you need to initialize and set here in case you are using services like, let's say, Firebase authentication or Firebase dynamic links or analytics. So for that particular thing, you'll be needing this SHA key. But for now, we are not using authentication, we are just initializing Firebase into our application, so we don't need to set this now. Obviously, if you want to use let's say Google sign in later on in your application, in that case you can come back to the settings and set this particular uh, SHA value. Alright, so we'll be registering our app now. By the time it gets registered, we need to make a few more changes here. So the first thing is min SDK version. We need to set this as let's say 21. Min SDK version 21 is the version where most of the Firebase services like are supported by Flutter. So it's advised that you set it around 21 at least, 21 or above, by at least 21. Then the target SDK version, you can keep it as anything 29, 30. I'm gonna keep it as 30. So it will be supporting from 21 all the way up to 30. Alright, so we're going to make a few more changes over here. And alright, our application was registered. Let's quickly download this google.json google services.json file, and we're going to keep it app, then src. So this is the folder where we are we're going to keep it under app. So app is the particular folder where we are going to keep our google.services.json file. So this is now downloaded, and as you can see it is available over here now. Let's take a quick look at what all is inside this particular google.json google services.json file. So there are a few identifiers over here. The package name that we initialized earlier, this is present here, and we have the project ID, the storage bucket. So this is basically mapping our application to the Firebase project that we created earlier. All right. So for the next part of it, what we are going to do is we need to add the Firebase SDK to our application. So we have downloaded this now. Uh, we have proper instructions on what all changes we have to make in order to get this thing set up. So now we are going to go to the project level build.gradle where we can find this. Let's go to the Android folder once again. We're going to close this app folder, and this is the particular build.gradle file that we are considering over here. So if you go inside the Android folder, you will find that there are two build.gradles. The first one is present inside the app folder. This is the app level build gradle, and the other one is present inside the Android folder. This is the project level build.gradle. So let's quickly open this one, and let's go through the instructions. So the first instruction is under the build script section. We need to check that this Google's Maven repository is present. So let's quickly check that. Under build script, we have Google's Maven repository present, so we need not add it. Now the next thing is we need to go to dependencies and we have to add this particular line. So let's quickly copy this one, and under dependencies we have to add this line. This was easy, we have added this particular line. And the next thing is we need to go to the all projects section, and again we have to check the Google's Maven repository is present. So let's go to all projects. This is the all projects section, and here we can see that the Maven repository is present. So this particular part is done. Now we'll be going to the app level build.gradle file, and we need to make some changes over there as well. Let's take a quick look at it. So the first thing is we need to add this particular line. That is, we need to add the Google Services plugin to our application. So let's go to app level build.gradle file. This is again present inside Android, then app, then build.gradle. So here we are. We are going to add that particular dependency. Um, we have this one already. We need to add this one, the Google Services one, which will come right underneath this. And then we have to add the Firebase dependencies. It will come in under the dependencies folder, dependencies section, which is, if you scroll all the way down over here. I hope there are no more dependencies present. Yeah, this is the one. So I added this one. Then I need to add Firebase Analytics as well, because we have enabled analytics for our application. And so this one was also added. And yeah, we are good to go. We need to just click on next now. And with this, we have like set up our Firebase project. The first thing that we did was set up our Firebase project. Then the next step is integrating Firebase with our application. So we have done all the necessary steps in required in like uh, initializing our Firebase application within our Flutter, like a Firebase project within our Flutter application. So next thing that we're going to do over here is we need to go to pubspec.yaml file, and we need to add a few packages over here. So what are these packages that I'm talking about? Right now, like we have initialized the project and we have created the project, but the integration is not complete yet. We need to complete the Firebase integration. So if we go back to Flutterfire and go all the way up top, this is the particular package that we need to add to our application. So there are two ways that you can do this. Either you can just directly run this particular command in your um, terminal, or what you can do is, let's take a look at what Firebase core is on flutter.pub.dev. So the pub.dev website is the website where you will find all the uh, publicly registered or publicly available Firebase uh, Flutter packages. My bad. So Firebase core is, it basically acts as the Firebase's core API. All the modules, all the services that you are going to use for Firebase, the first thing that you need is Firebase core for Flutter within your Flutter application. So we're going to add this particular thing in our application. we need to add this particular line to our uh, pubspec.yaml file. So let's quickly add this one, and this is going to come over here. Cool, we have added firebase.code, and the next thing that we need to do is we need to import this particular file inside our main.dart file, this particular package, my bad. And okay, we have a error over here. Let's not define a version over here, and let's see if it helps. Cool, it got installed, and now we have successfully imported this. So the problem that we ran into earlier while we were specifying a particular version was that the SDK that I have on my system right now, that was not supported for that particular Firebase core version. So all I had to do it was remove the version that I specified before, and whatever suitable version that was available for my SDK version was installed in my application. Cool. So this first part of the initialization process was complete. Now let's just finally initialize the application. I mean, initialize Firebase in our application. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to declare it as async, and yeah, this is going to be an asynchronous operation because like it takes the entire process of creating a Firebase, like initializing Firebase in our application, is an asynchronous process. We'll come back to what asynchronicity is in tomorrow's session, where we'll be discussing Firebase and other stuff more in depth. So for now, all we need to do is declare this function as an asynchronous function, and yeah, let's initialize the Firebase widget. So it will be widgets Flutter binding and ensure initialized, and then await. Cool. So this was the very first step of initializing Firebase inside your application. Now the next step of it will like this was the first half of initializing Firebase into our application. Now the second half, where we'll be like integrating Firebase authentication into our application, and then Firebase like the Cloud Firestore. So that part we'll be doing it tomorrow. So for now, what you can do is after today's session, what you can do is go to the documentations of Flutterfire, and then you can take a quick overview of what Flutterfire is, what Firebase is, and how you can integrate Firebase with your applications, things like this. And after that, you can go to the Firebase console, You can create your own Firebase project, and after that, just go through all these services. You can open these services. It won't cost you money. It's a free plan, so you can like click on all these services. These videos will give you a quick overview of what the particular service is. You can view the documentation for each of the service, and it will give you a very in-depth understanding of what the service is, and how you can use the service for your particular use case inside your application. So we have a lot of services over here. We This was the authentication service. Then we have the Firestore database, which is a NoSQL database. Then we have a real-time database as well. This Then we have the storage functionality, hosting functionality. You can go through all these services that Firebase is providing one by one. Go through the videos, and you'll be able to get a better grasp of what Firebase is and what the services it's providing. And in tomorrow's session, what we are going to do is we are going to complete our caffeine application. We are going to integrate Firebase Firestore in that application, and we are also going to take a overview of how authentication works inside an application by creating a sign in and sign up feature inside our application. So with that, we'll like complete a wrap on our application, and yeah, you'll be able to create your first complete Flutter application in tomorrow's session. So yeah, this was it for today's session. Today's session was just a quick overview of like all the things inside the Fire Flutter world. In tomorrow's session, we'll be discussing all these things in detail. So yeah, this is a wrap for today's session. Let's see if there are any doubts in today's session. Cool. I don't see any doubts. So yeah, we can end today's session. Please tune in for tomorrow's session. We are going to do a lot of things in tomorrow's session, and it's a very important one. It will be like a summary of the entire Flutter Festival week. Yeah. So with this is a wrap. We can end today's session. Have a great day, guys. Bye. See you tomorrow.